So today we're going to be painting these Black-Eyed Susans, and I am going to edit one of these flowers out just for the purposes of demonstration. And of course you all can choose how many flowers you want to do. If you just feel comfortable in doing just the large one, or like what I'm going to do today, which is the large and then the small one here. This is a painting that I did with all three of them, which is essentially just a painting of this photograph. So this is going to be a lot of fun because our mixtures for the petals are really just yellow, and then yellow with a purple for our darks, and then we have these wonderful dark brown centers that are a lot of fun. But something we're really going to focus on this week is all of these greens and getting a variety of greens in here to make this really interesting. And then of course we have this beautiful sky in the background. So anyway, we're going to get started. I have put the wash on my panel, and something that I want to make a point of is get a very light brown. Let me show you my mixture of this brown that I'm using for my wash and my drawing. So again, it's the yellow ochre, a little bit of red, and a touch of blue just to get this brown. But you're gonna need probably 75% of your yellow ochre to get this. You do not want a dark brown. So because I think last week we got some of our washes a little dark, and if you do that, then you can end up with a dark painting. So, and this is really a light, what's called a light key. Going to be a light key painting. These values, the yellows, even these greens are very light and bright. So, so first I'm going to draw my flowers. And again, I go back into this light brown wash that I have made up. I'm going to make these little lines here for my verticals and horizontals to give me some guidance on where to place my flowers. I'm just doing, again, I'm just going to do the large one and the small one. And so this large one is going to take up, obviously, a big part of my panel. And so if I hold my brush up here, look at my vertical and my horizontal, and where this large flower is accordingly. So I'm going to start with this big petal here. It's pretty much to the left of my vertical marks. So, and then it's going to be really all the way up here in the painting. It's about a third down from the top. So I'm just going to guess here. I'm going to start over here, and I'm really just looking at some markers. A little thick. I don't want that thick. Looking at the exterior of this flower. And to me, this flower, we can think about, remember last week we talked about shapes? So these are really just kind of like saucers. So this flower is going to go, the petal over here is going to go extend way over onto this side. So just trying to get kind of what we call an envelope of where the subject is going to lie. I might take this up just a bit, primarily because since I'm only using, only going to be doing 2 of these flowers, I want to keep in mind is, you know, we want them to take up a large part of our painting. So now I'm going to go to this smaller one up here. It's probably going to start, in comparison to this large flower, it's really going to start about here. And it's like this. And again, this just looks like a saucer to me. Okay. And I'm going to look at these centers, and I'm going to put this, I'm going to say, well, I'll go ahead and get this petal in here, just to give me something to go by. So I'm going to say, well, the center is going to start here, and probably about right here. And I am just, again, I'm just thinking shape, and I'm drawing straight lines to get started. And then the little center over here, I'm gonna just mark it about here. I know that my drawing is going to change as I paint. This is just something to give us an underpainting to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and, these are very, very dark. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill this in. And then I'm going to get just a little bit of these petals. This is probably going to come at about here. This is actually going to come out further. Get rid of that line so it's not so distracting. And this is going to come really more like it about like this. We have this triangle over here. And we can think of triangles, helps our drawing. And I start fairly large on my drawing because I know that as I paint, things will get smaller and smaller. That's just the process. It's just what happens. And of course, all of this is going to be cut in when we have our negative, do our negative shapes, our background. I know that I've got my center here a little big. It's probably more like about like this, but that's okay. I'll probably end up taking these petals off of my canvas. I do that a lot in my paintings. Let me get rid of these distracting lines here. Okay. And I'll go ahead and kind of refine this a bit. Where I see some darks coming down, I'll go ahead and bring that down. One thing that we're talking about today are values. Last week we talked about shape. We're going to focus a little bit more on values today because values are really, a range of values are critical in painting. Darks, midtones, and lights. So that's how you can create three-dimensional form in a painting, is using a range of values. Shape the center. Go to the other one. When I draw, I use what's called comparative drawing. I'm looking at one shape and I'm then basing the shape next to it comparatively to the other shape. So that is comparative drawing. Move this over a bit. Okay. Some of this down. And then I am going to pull out my lights, which is very, very important in this painting in particular because of all of this yellow. And as we talked about last week, yellow is a very vulnerable color. So it's good to start out with the cadmium yellow, because otherwise it's just going to be really destroyed by the other paints if we start with the other paints first. And then we're just fighting those colors the whole time. So we are going to start with our cadmium yellow, but we also want to get all of this pulled out, so we will not be fighting the wash underneath. And when I do this, you can really start to see these light petals. Back and reshape. So the other thing that I am going to do, because this is sky up here, I'm going to get this lighter for our blue. So I'm just going to pull some of this out. Okay, so I have pre-mixed my paints and have them ready to go on my palette. For my petals, these are really simple mixtures. I have just pulled down some cadmium yellow down here, so it's ready to go. And I'm going to be using pure cadmium yellow for a big majority of my petals, but especially for my lights. I also have this mixture here, which is a brown, and it is cadmium yellow with a little bit of red purple. So it really is about a 75% cadmium yellow, 25% purple to get this dark. Then I have this really beautiful kind of reddish dark brown for my centers. And this is my naphtha red with some green. And then I also have I've taken some of that purple, moved it over here, put white in it, and I'm going to use that just a little bit for the very tops of these centers. They're not real apparent in the photograph, but I know that the tops of these centers are going to be lighter because the sun is hitting them. And so I want to show that. I also have ultramarine blue and with white, and it's pretty much about a 75% white, 25% ultramarine blue. And then I have a variety of greens. So this week you all are really going to be focusing using your variety of greens that you have on your color board to make all of these beautiful greens. You know, these flowers are set really in a meadow, so lots of different colors of and varieties of greens going on there. So I am going to go ahead and get started with this large flower. And I am just going to start with my cadmium yellow because, again, we know that it's a very vulnerable color, and it's good to just get it on the palette because it can quickly darken when we get our darks around it. So I'm just going to do this fast. So if I accidentally got some brown in there, I'm just going to go ahead, take my rag and pull that off. Kind of rinse off my brush in my Gamsol, go back into a clean yellow and pull that in. Sometimes I will just connect shapes. Because, you know, it's better to have a lot of our shapes connected. It can actually be a little bit more pleasing to the eye. So I'm just looking at my picture, and wherever I see the light yellow, I'm putting it in. And with these yellows, you really have to keep your brush clean. Sometimes wipe it off in between strokes if we get it into some of this brown. I'm just pulling it in. Like we did last week, we're not worried about lines. We're bringing them just out into the painting our negative shapes will help form this flower. So we're really not worried about staying within lines. Just paying attention to my subject. I look at my subject and then I take a stroke. So while I have this yellow on my brush, I'm going to go on up to the small flower. Clean up my brush just a bit with my Gamsol, put a little bit of gel on it. Remember, we use that gel to just help our paints be a little bit creamier, especially in the beginning of our painting as we're applying it onto the canvas. Looking at the shape of this petal. How fun to be doing these flowers. These Black-Eyed Susans are really fun, I think. Now I know I'm going to have to do a lot of tweaking with my center, and that's okay. A little bit more gel on my brush. Paint's getting a little stiff. So now I'm going to get some of this darker yellow that we've made up. Get a little bit more gel. And where I see the darker values on my flower, then I go ahead and just start pulling this down. Just looking at my photo and following it. Bringing this around. This gets just a little bit lighter on this petal as it's coming out into the light, so I'm just showing that by adding just a little bit of more of the yellow into this part of the petal. Still looking at my photo. And you know, this is the block end, so this is when we just get our initial colors in, and then all of this can change as we paint. Still just looking at my photograph, seeing where my darks are, my lights, laying it in. This is very light over here. There's probably just a little bit of dark right along here where that petal turns. Same way with this petal. It's turning downward. And these kind of the tips as these turn downward are going to be a little darker. Now I'm going to go ahead and start putting in my centers with this beautiful dark warm brown. And so now this center obviously has got to be defined or redefined again. Just again, I'm looking at my photo. Up just a little bit more. Like what I said last week, you know, think of your photo of your subject that you're painting as your map. You don't know where you're going unless you're looking at your map. So I look at it and then I lay down a stroke. And then I look at it and I lay down a stroke. Now something that I'm going to do is take this brown. I don't need to have a lot on my brush, but I'm going to pull it into where I have my petals. Because his center isn't just, it's not sitting on top. It's a part of, it's a part of this, of the painting, part of the flower. So you want to look at where the darks are, kind of pull it into the darks, and it will feel much more like it's a part of this flower. It just integrates it. And the same way with this little center up here. You know, the good thing with oil paint, one of the things that I think makes oil painting so much fun is that everything is changeable. You know, if you don't like your shape, then you can change it. It's a very, very forgiving medium. And then what I would do is just go back. I'm going to rinse off my brush and my Gamsol. I'm going to go back and kind of refine some of this. I'm going to get some more of my yellow. Kind of bring it up into this dark. Maybe reach up here and just I didn't even go into a mix. I just kind of reached up and pulled this down. Go back up to the center. It up. These petals, when they turn down, are going to be a little darker. Some of them anyway, depending on the position of them. Cleaned off my brush because I was going to go back into this yellow. So trying to keep the yellow clean. And this really together, these petals. Kind of redefining my petals, pulling this down, and then here. And I'm going to have another chance at defining these petals again when I start putting in my background. This petal is over this petal. So I just pull it around like this, because this is underneath it. And then I can even go back. It's just a back and forth. I can go back, bring my center down just a bit, redefine it. Like that. Bring these in. And then just get this really fun center. Get him a little bit more defined again. Probably a little big there, but when I put in my background, that will change. And in fact, I'll go ahead and show you quickly about the background. Now this is not finished. I would come back and again reapply some of these lights and darks. In fact, I probably would get this a little bit darker here. But for now, I'm going to leave it and move on just quickly. I'll show you, I'm going to cut in right here so you can see. And I'm going to be using some of this blue for my sky up here. So again, I'm looking at this little flower. So I would just bring this in. And then just cut in around these petals. Just like we did last week. And of course, there's also some green along here, so you can apply green as you go. But this is just going to cut in some of these petals. And then the other thing, let's get this here. Bring this down quite a bit. Is that there is some, we're going to have a stem coming down here. Get a different brush. No, this will come down just a bit. But we're going to have a stem along here with some very dark green. So you want to keep that in mind. And then also, I'll just show you really quickly. Get this shape a little bit better. So remember I made that violet to go on the tops of these centers. So I'm going to go ahead and just lay that in. Remember, violet and yellow are complementary colors, so that's really going to be beautiful with all of these beautiful yellow petals that we're going to be creating. So, you know, the next thing I would do at this point is go ahead and start putting in greens. And that's when our petals are going to be even more defined. And we have a variety of greens to use this week. I'd really love to see everybody, you know, go use a lot of darks, lights, kind of greenish yellows for your lights. And remember, we just bring them around. Bring your negative space around, and you can just let it, you know, touch your positive space, touch your flower to carve it in. And what I would do, which is really fun, because again, this is very light key, I would go from dark, mid-tone, light on my greens, and then really start, you know, applying this variation of greens that we have to get just a really fun, abstract background that will look like these flowers are set into a meadow. And let me just show you real quick. So I'm not going to do all of this, but if I have, say I have this mix of green on here, and we see all of these various leaves and stems, I can use my palette knife and just apply lighter colors with the palette knife right over. And that's going to eventually create this really beautiful variety of greens in your painting that is going to make it look like you have spent a lot of time making this painting of flowers in a meadow. And really it's just using abstract shapes with your palette knife. And you can get really fun with this. Let me show you in mine. All of this, I started out with a variation of dark, mid-tone, and light greens, and then I started taking my palette knife and just going over it with some either lighter tones. I've even got a little bit of blues in here, and it really looks like a meadow. And I even went up here with some, even some brown, and it almost looks like there's something hanging, which is kind of simulates what we have in this photograph. So I want you all to get started. I think this is can be a really fun, expressive painting. So let's get going.